Chanlor Clark, and my audience today is Caroline and Tish, and both of them work in the healthcare field. You know, growing up as a child with a brother and a sister, you have crying, you're happy, you're sad, and as we got older, we noticed that my brother's highs, happiness was really, really over the top happy, and his sads were really, really sad, and you never knew when it was going to happen. So my parents took him in to see a doctor, and he was diagnosed with manic depression. And at that time, it was known as manic depression. Now it's known as bipolar disorder. I got my sources today from health magazines and the U.S. Library of Medicine on the government websites. Today I'll be talking about how people are affected by the disease and and their symptoms. 5.4 million people are diagnosed with bipolar disorder in the U.S. alone. Approximately 51 million people, 2.4% of the world population, have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. My brother is one of them who suffers from the disorder, as I said earlier. Through psychotherapy and medicines such as mood stabilizers, medical treatments, bipolar disorder can be treated and managed. Bipolar disorder is a mental illness that brings very high highs and very low lows, mood changes, sleep habits change, energy levels, thinking processes, and the behavior. The U.S. is the highest rate of bipolar disorder among developing countries. Bipolar disorder was first recognized by a gentleman called Emil Kraepelin in the 18th century. So even that long ago, people were dealing with these mood swings and this high and low. He was believed to be one of the first persons who seriously studied the mental illness. Not only did the disorder become diagnosed more frequently, its effects sometimes became more severe, being because of genetics and environmental factors contributing to risk. About 30 to 50% of patients reported traumatic, abusive experiences such as neglect, physical abuse, emotional abuse during childhood. Bipolar disorder affects family, friends, and everyone around that individual, sometimes primarily compromised of love and happiness of one thing or one person at any given moment, and they'll be on a real high, and the next minute they'll be severely depressed over that same person or that same thing. This disorder can be debilitating not only to the individual suffering, but the loved ones around the individual. You never know when they're going to be high or when they're going to have the low emotions or depressed for 2 months, and you don't see them, and then they're out and happy. So bipolar is now better understood through the tireless efforts of psychiatrists, therapists. Their research has led to more awareness, better treatment, and patients have a higher quality of life. Living face-to-face with this disorder has made me aware of the important qualities that healthcare, physicians, and therapists who take the time to evaluate each individual and every patient to ensure the right diagnosis. Fortunately, there are ways for this illness to be controlled, so individuals suffering with this disorder will be more productive and have a higher quality of life and be good members of society.